Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn. How you doing?
Hey, Mikey. Good morning.
So we just walked into the coffee shop, and Glenn has a pad of paper in front of him, and he just put a big, with a Sharpie, just put a big question mark.
Well, it's funny. I mean, we are trying. I mean, we don't script these things. I mean, we have an idea of what we're going to talk about, but it's just two guys in a coffee shop. Just kind of, we're bringing folks in to overhear our coffees, and Mikey was funny last session. He was seeking some words, and he's like, hey, we need to edit that out. I'm like, no way, man, we're not editing anything.
He just left my silence just dangling out there.
I loved it.
And once it's on the internet, it never goes away. That silence it'll be like, I'm really dating myself now. It'll be the Nixon 3 seconds of tape that didn't play. No one knows who Nixon is, Mike.
That's funny. So no, we're not editing. It's just a real conversation in the corner of a coffee shop, our favorite table. Yeah. And, man, we're just playing around with it, sharing our experience, strength, and hope with each other.
That's right. We did, if you look at the library, we did the 12, we walked through the 12 steps, which I thought were really beneficial. I'd highly recommend anybody go back and listen to those that are new, especially new to the program of 12-step recovery. But, now we're kind of freewheeling a little bit. And Glenn, I called this coffee because I want to talk about, and you said, well, what are we talking about? And I said, you'll get it. And
if I could jump in with more detail. So again, and we shared this in a prior episode, but Mikey was one of those note takers, right?
Oh yeah.
And I always see folks come into the meeting with their notebooks and they take all the notes, and 2 weeks later you never see him again. So Mikey was like the first one that really stuck around after taking all his notes. So that's kind of the genesis of these coffees. Is he's got this notebook with like 700 and some like key pieces of meat that he pulled out of meetings. And I'm like, hey, let's and we've talked about him for a long time at coffees. And he's like, let's just, invite people in to listen to us. Right. So we normally have, at least an idea of what we're going to talk about. So with this, on our production notes, my wife says, hey, you guys, she saw all our plans and she goes, oh my gosh, that's really detailed. And she goes, I thought you guys just got around and started talking. I'm like, nah, there's actually, a little bit of planning.
Guardrails.
Yeah, guardrail. So on the list, the topic for today is get it. And I'm like, dude, what is get it? What are we talking about? He goes, you'll get it.
You'll get it. When, and it's funny you bring that up about the notebook. So I go into, again, I'm a product of rehab, and I fought it. As a matter of fact, on the way there, I told my wife, I said, maybe we overshot this whole rehab
Dude,
thing.
I almost spit my coffee out on that one.
Maybe we overshot it. I could do this outpatient. I could do it at the 7-Eleven down the block. I don't need to go into rehab.
That's like having a broken leg and your bones sticking out of your skin and saying, maybe I just need a Band-Aid.
I'll go to the dentist. He'll take care of that.
Maybe I'll just get a Band-Aid.
Yeah, right. But I did walk into rehab, and my wife did give me a spiral notebook. And I don't know what happened to me, but I was in such a point of despair, darkness, and I was willing to go to any length to try and get myself out of where I was and get better. And I just started writing down everything that was happening in front of me, and that newfound discipline carried me out of rehab and into the rooms. And when I sit down and have coffee with somebody, I make it a point to have a piece of paper and a pen, because the value that I can bring out of working with the value that comes out of working with another alcoholic, whether they have more sobriety than me than less sobriety than me, is just, it's immense. Because they've got an experience, and every single time I can pick up something that they said that I can relate to. And then I open my mouth, and their body language changes, and they say, I can relate to that. Maybe not everything, I'm not everybody's flavor, but I'm some people's flavor.
You're my flavor, Mikey. So get it, man. What are we getting?
So I think first of all is the fact that I never get it. I don't ever get it. There's no graduation in this program. And so I never attained, I was a cross distance runner in high school before I found weed. And yeah, you can't weed is such a passive drug, it's like you're running, your adrenaline's going, and then you got weed in you, and you're like, oh, dude, maybe I'll just stop and have a Twinkie.
Dude, so
my
funny.
career ended abruptly, but I was a cross country runner and long distance runner, and you could always find that extra surge for the finish line, right? Your adrenaline pumped up to surge over that finish line, and I guess what I've realized, what I get now is that I'll never get it. I'll never attain. This is a daily reprieve of a disease that I'll have for the rest of my life, and I think it was a turning point for me to understand that, and I kind of wanted to talk about it with you today, Glenn, because when I came into the program, the word forever or ever scared the snot out of me, and I couldn't imagine life without alcohol and drugs. I just couldn't imagine it because it was so connected to every memory that I had from the age of 13, and so I kind of wanted to tap into your experience. I got my pen, I got my paper, and I guess I want to talk about at what point do you start? They say live in 24 hours, right? They say take it 24 hours at a time. At what point do you look to the day after tomorrow?
So now I'm understanding what get it means. Great topic. So, and I've shared this before, my first experience with that was in my first rehab, 2003. And, I'm with my temporary sponsor and I'm tapping my watch. I'm like, dude, let's get through these 12 steps. I got to get back to work. Right. And his response, after he shook his head and, in disbelief, it was through that, at that moment, I was taught, it still took me years to experience it, but I was taught that this is a journey, not a destination, right? Mm-hmm. And I can remember he even saying, he goes, hey, at the end of your rehab, they're going to give you a graduation certificate, And I can remember, a lot of people needed that for court. I get it, I applaud that or whatnot. But I can remember going up at graduation and taking that certificate and ripping it up and throwing it away in front of everybody, for me, that was, hey, this is not a graduation, because at that point I had a couple more weeks of learnings and I realized, hey, this is a lifelong, thing. I'm just not going to go through this and get reset, learn how to drink socially again and go back and drink great. I learned through the rest of rehab that this is going to be a lifelong, journey, not a graduation. And so that was probably one key point, and I keep learning that. I'm okay today saying I'm never going to drink again. I get that. But it took me, I got a number of years sober today, but it took me several years to really get my hands around that. And even my head trash today says, well, Glenn, maybe when you retire, maybe when you retire, you can have that, beer on the boat. Just take one beer, right? That's the head trash. That's nuts, right? But another example of when I really got this, right? So we use a phrase, one day at a time. And hey, does that mean that you don't have plans for tomorrow or next week? No, it doesn't. I'm doing a trip in, coming up here in a couple of weeks. It doesn't mean you don't plan. It's that you focus and you put all your focus and priority on today, right? But I talked to a guy, and this is several years ago. But this really clicked for me. I talked to a guy who was in the room, and he was relatively new, and he said, hey, I just, this whole, and I was talking to him after the meeting. He goes, this whole not drink forever. He goes, I don't think I can sign up for that.
Right.
I'm like, well, you don't have to sign up for that. Just sign up. Just don't drink today. He goes, yeah, man, but all I can think about is my daughter's wedding. What am I going to do at my daughter's wedding? My daughter's wedding, I'm going to have to toast. What am I going to toast with? My daughter's wedding. You know, I just, so I said, dude, I get it, man. I said, when's your daughter's wedding? He goes, well, she's 3. And I'm just like, you know, and yet, you know, I mean, I was like, this is idiotic. And it was a good learning lesson for me. But for him, I saw the anguish, right? I saw him processing, and I'm just like, you know, so that's the forever versus one day at a time. And for us, because I know your story and many people's story, you know, it doesn't happen overnight, right? So that's what it helps us to focus on today and just say, hey, for today I'm not drinking. Tomorrow I'll worry about tomorrow. But for me, this not drinking thing's working pretty well. I'm not, you know, shitting myself. You know, I'm not, you know, people aren't leaving me today because I'm sober. You know, I know what's going on today. I'm productive today. I have purpose today. Let me just live this for today.
All right, great. All right, I'm going to throw a curveball.
All right.
I get it. Okay? It's an action program. So, you know, when I came in, I was looking for a magic pill. I was looking for, so this is the second meaning of get it, right? I was looking for a magic pill. I was looking for literally a pill that I could take that would stop me from drinking, that would change my life in that element of my life. And what I came to realize in the program is that you have to go get it. You have to work the program. I love in the back of, at several meetings I go to, we read what they call the promises at the end of the meeting, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But after they go through the promises, it says they will always materialize if we work for them. So we have to really go get this program. For me, I look at it like an accelerator, a gas pedal, and I'll just tell you, my experience has been to keep my foot not idling, but pressed down on that throttle or that accelerator. I need to continually work this program aggressively for it to work for me. I find that when my foot comes off that pedal a little bit and I start idling, if you will, or going towards idle, that I can feel the changes inside me. How important is it, and what do you do, I guess, to work this program every day to your level of comfort, knowing that you're getting it, you're going after it?
Yeah, so it's funny that you use the word magic pill, because that was my program for 10 years. You know, I was looking for the magic pill. I was looking for a quick solution. I wanted it. I wanted sobriety, and I wanted everything back. I wanted all the promises to come true today. You know, it took me a while to understand those words, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And then I realized, very aware, that I'm on the slow train, right? But I wanted the magic pill. And there actually is a magic pill out there that I took for a year. You know, I know some people don't like that, and I'm like, too bad, because it worked for me. And that's Antabuse. So Antabuse was my magic pill. Antabuse, for those that don't know, it's a pill that you take. It stays in your system for 2 weeks. And if you take a sip of alcohol or several sips of alcohol, for me, my throat would close up. I get all red, start flushing, get sick. And it's a pretty intense pill. I mean, there's people that have died, you know, from taking Antabuse and drinking on Antabuse. Of course, I tested it, and yeah, I got really sick. So I took Antabuse for 1 year, and I used that as, excuse me, a safety net, you know, and it helped me identify, and I mentioned this before, it helped me identify my fuck it moments, you know, the point in time where I wanted to escape, and I would normally drink to escape. But now, because I was on that, and you take it every day and it stays for 2 weeks, so it's not like an instant relapse. If you want to relapse, you have to consciously not take that pill for 2 weeks. So it is a conscious 2 week relapse in motion before you even take that drink, right? So I took that because I was so scared and taking that other drink, but it helped me identify the reasons for drinking, and then it gave me time for my program to kick in. You know, for my to be able to start learning differently, to be able to start, quote unquote, suffering better, right? To be able to sit in my shit, all those fun terms. So that was my magic pill for a while. But even before that, I took so much medication and I went to so many doctors. And I mean, at one point, I had so many diagnoses from you name it, even the S word, maybe the guy's schizophrenic, personality disorders, bipolar, manic, hypomania, depression. I mean, you name it. If there's a mental disease, I was diagnosed. But those doctors, and I got pissed off at them because I had so much hope. When I went to the doctor, I was looking for the magic pill. And I didn't get it. And they certainly tried. And I was on 10 different meds. I was a chemistry experiment. And I mean, it was so messed up. And all one of them had to say was, go to AA and work the program of AA. Because it's funny, when I'm sober, every one of those diagnoses have gone away, So, I mean, here's professionals that are telling me all this stuff just because for whatever reason, right? Ego, whatever. So I was always looking for a magic pill. I was looking for that book to read that would solve it, and then just get back to life. So antabuse was kind of a magic pill as I learned the real magic pill, which is not a pill. It's the program it's a 12-step program.
Great. All right, here's my last segue. Forget it. So who do you get it with, right? So you mentioned your therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, right? These authors, these PhDs, right? And when I went into rehab, there was I had young people fresh out of college trying to tell me about my problem, and I'm sure they were being paid a lot of money, and I'm sure they were highly educated, and I took notes. But I'll tell you, my pen really got miles on it when I sat across the table from somebody who's been through life and who really understood me. And so the last get it is, who do you get it with? And how important is it to keep plugged in to people who understand you and who are understood by you?
So a couple things. One is, I'll go back to something you asked before. Sobriety is my number one goal in life. I mean, that is on January 6th, the AA thought for the day, and you can Google that. It's sobriety is the most important thing for me. That is when I wake up in the morning, what am I going to do today to be sober? I mean, because I lose everything if I take that first drink. I have a defense against that first drink. I do not have a defense against that second drink. So that's super important. So who do I get it with? I stopped going to all those doctors. Amen. I stopped taking all the meds, and I go get it with the people in the room. I have learned how to live the 12-step program from the people in the room. And I continue to learn how to live life. And an example of that is when I go through situations, because of how people openly share in the rooms, in the meetings, their successes, their failures, I learn from them. In fact, I hear voices from those people that I go get it with.
In a good way.
In a good way, right? And, there's a guy who has shared, I have 2 great stepchildren. But that's a different dynamic, and you just don't step into that and become a pro. That's unrealistic expectations. But this guy, his stepkids are about 6 years ahead of mine or 8 years ahead of mine. And for years, I heard him share his stories about his stepkids. And when I'm going through those same situations, I can't change my stepchildren. I can change my reactions to them. I can't change my daughters. I can change my reaction to them. So when I'm actually going through those situations, I actually hear his voice, share those tidbits of things that he went through, and I hear other people's voices of people in the room that I am getting it with. I have 30 plus, guys' phone numbers in my phone, who I go through life with, I go through sober life with. And it's funny, most of my life, I have a business and I'm focused on business, and not a lot of business people know my story. But everybody else in my life, most of them are sober. Mm-hmm. I'd say at least 9. I have built a world around sobriety and sober people. And, as we, eventually talk about the first wheel, I'm very careful who's in those cars with me,
Sure.
Who's riding the first wheel with me,
And people that get it are have priority. So get it right for 24 hours. Go after it. Get it for all it's worth, and get it with the right people. Did you get it?
Man, you know what? When we started, I didn't get it, but man, I really get it now.
All right. Well, let's get
Nice
back.
work,
let's
man.
get back here next week. Have a great
Nice
one.
work,
Let's go
man.
get it.
Love having coffee with you. Thanks,
All right.
brother.
Thanks, Glenn.
See you, man.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago.